What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. I know I've been gone for 3 months. Let me explain. Life has just kind of it said fuck you. I know I shouldn't be swearing in the first 15 seconds of the video, but that's honestly what life has done. I'm not going to get into too many details, but just know that the things that have gone on behind the scenes have made it really difficult for me to want to pursue Yu-Gi-Oh, let alone content creation and streaming. I am finally recording a video because I'm at a point where I feel like I can record a video, but I'm not quite back to being able to try and do a set schedule. So it's probably going to be inconsistent uploads. I'm probably going to be gone for months at a time, like I have been. I was wanting to really, and I mean really, get back into having like a regular schedule where I would try and do something once a week, once every other week. But yeah, that's not happening. That probably won't happen for a very long time, if ever. And I just kind of wanted to start the video with that. And I want to say, like, I'm sorry to all of you that have stuck around with me, and to all of you that wait for my uploads and everything like that. I appreciate all 250 plus of you guys that have come to my channel, and yeah, life has just not been fun, not been nice. And I'm gonna go ahead, get into this video. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who does tune in and watch these, and who comments and asks questions and actually tries to communicate and everything like that. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And without further ado, now that we're 3 minutes in and it feels like I've only been talking for a minute, uh, let's cover what this deck is and what it does, because I'm leaving the title of the video as Mitsurugi Pile. Starting us off, we've got our one Habakiri, our one Murakumo, our one Futsu, and this is it for the Mitsurugi ritual lineup. One of each of their ritual monster names. I feel like it's pretty standard, minus the Futsu. However, I wanted this deck's primary focus to be the Mitsurugi cards and their flexibility with other archetypes, which is why there are one of the 3 archetypes of cards in the deck. And I also just really love Futsu because of the once per chain, just revive a thing. Really solid card. Then we've got our 1 copy of Kusanagi, our 1 copy of Aramasa, and our 1 copy of Saji. I am sorry that these are getting put off to the side. I also don't know if you guys can hear it in my voice. I am not feeling 100% right now. Give me just a second. I'm going to pause the recording so I can take a drink. And we're back. For you guys, that was probably half a second. For me, that was a good maybe 10 seconds. However, like I said, you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm not feeling 100%. I think I'm coming down with something. My throat has been a little sore these last couple of days. But don't worry. I'm not going to record too much because this is literally the only deck I have lined up. And I'm sorry. Then, for the rest of the Mitsurugi package, we've got our obvious 3 copies of Mitsurugi Prayers, our 1 Mitsurugi Ritual, our 1 Mirror, our 1 Great Purification. Again, bog standard Mitsurugi engine. You play the bare minimum of everything that isn't Mitsurugi Prayers. You could 100% cut some stuff out of this deck and play a second copy of Aramasa. However, there's a card in here that I am deeming necessary for this deck to be able to do some of the things that I want to do. And it pertains to one of the couple of engines in this deck. So let's go ahead and move past the, actual Mitsurugi cards and move on to what I have deemed the honorary Mitsurugi cards. Those being my one of Night Sword Serpent. This has probably been my favorite card to play in Mitsurugi that isn't a Mitsurugi card. Just because a free level 4 body that allows you to chain block your resource recycling is beyond amazing in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! However, I also understand people are finally moving away from this card, mostly because King of the Feral Imps is gone, and it makes it harder to justify having this random free level 4 body, but you can convert it into a link material, you can make it into a rank 4. Hell, if you're playing tuners because you're splashing this with something that can synchro summon, this is a free level 4 body to make a level 6 synchro, or anywhere from like a level 5 to a level 8 synchro, depending on the level of your tuner. And I just think this card needs to be played with Mitsurugi, especially if we're going to be playing separate engines. And even without extra engines, this card I think is still mandatory to play in pure, just because the free level 4 body makes the ceiling of your end board go up just enough to warrant it, in my opinion. Again, decks are opinionated. Do what you want with it. You can cut the Night Sword Serpent, play a second Aramasa as a way to find Habakiri a little more consistently. However, I will say from my testing, I'm not having issues finding Habakiri. Then I've got 3 copies of Pre-Preparations of Rites, which is part of the reason why I'm not having issues finding Habakiri. Pre-Prep is the best 1-card starter in the deck. It is better than Habakiri by itself because it grabs Habakiri plus Mitsurugi Mirror, and we all know that having a 1-card starter backed by a free extender leads to some crazy things. So I'm going to go ahead and move these out of the way, and we're going to get into our first engine. This is the smallest main deck engine. And it's just the smallest engine overall. It has the least amount of main deck presence. And that's because the only card that I'm playing for this engine is 1 copy of Fiendsmith Engraver. I'll explain the combo once we get to the extra deck and why I'm playing it, but those of you who are very well versed with Fiendsmith, you guys already probably know what I'm doing with this. There's one purpose for the single copy of Engraver, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with it. There's 100% the possibility of expanding the Fiendsmith package by cutting out my other engine that I'm playing, but I've wanted to play this other engine for a while now. And one of the cards was very expensive for a very long time, and is now finally in a more affordable spot. So we're going to move past this single copy of Engraver for our lone Fiendsmith engine, and move into our next engine in the form of K9. We've got 3 copies of K9 Izuna, 1 copy of Lupus, 1 copy of Yokel, 1 copy of Lantern, and then 1 copy of A Case for K9 and 1 copy of X-Force Release. So the reason why I'm playing Canine, Fiendsmith, and Mitsurugi all in one deck is because even though Noroi is banned and you lose out on the hand knowledge that Noroi can provide, I personally feel like the Canine package is still worth running because of it being turn 0 interaction that can net you a pretty decently sized body on the board. It can also net you free extra advantage. It can steal opponents' resources with some of the tools that it has. And I'm pretty sure my Canine extra deck package isn't the greatest in the world. I'm pretty sure there's a few things that Canine enthusiasts can point out to me. I was, however, wanting to play C104 and just regular number 104. However, number 104 is a bit expensive right now. I think he's about $10 because he has one printing from a really old set. And then I have the C104, but obviously I can't get the most out of it because I'm not playing 104. I digress. I feel like this is the most competent package for Canine, but also is very cuttable. Heck, you could go down to a bare bones Canine package and just play the 3 Izuna and the 1 Lupus, and then have more room for other cards in your deck. However, I opted for a little bit more of a little bit larger of a Canine package, simply due to implications with going first as well. The more Canine cards you have in your deck, the more you can, you can accomplish going first as well as going second. And it also gives you very high resistance into hand traps, which, speaking of hand traps, we're going to segue right on over to those right now. I have a couple of talking points on these, but it does not involve Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I feel like this is a card that everybody should be playing. I mean, it's been a must-play 3 of in every deck since I think it was Maximum Crisis when that came out at like the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, somewhere in there. Yeah, end of 2016. I remember those days, kind of. I was a sophomore in high school. uh yeah, that's wild. It's been that long since Ash came out. For those of you who don't know, I just turned 26 this year. I'm not very open about these details about myself, but yeah, I turned 26 last month. So it's Ash is now a 10-year-old Yu-Gi-Oh card, and she has been a staple in every single deck, or just about every single deck, since. She has not seen a moment where she doesn't see play outside of like niche decks like Runic and Radiant Typhoon. But I'm going to move forward talking about Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is definitely a card that I think, if you are sitting across from Rolad every week at your locals, I would be playing this because it can cause Mind Shuffle to resolve without effect, because the whole weird rule that exists within the realm of Yu-Gi-Oh, where face-up continuous spells and traps have to remain face-up to resolve their effects. Don't know why they decided to make it like that. Don't know why they decided to, whatever. But Ogre is a very excellent card into Rolad and even a couple of other strategies that require your opponent to control things, like Cool Tune. If they're using an on-field effect of a Cool Tune monster, you can remove the body before they're able to synchro summon with it. So Cool Tune, pretty solid. Removing the Fallen of the White Dragon from the board isn't always like a perfect solution, but it's not bad because it prevents them from making the Synchro Ecclesia after, they summon the white Albaz. There's other implications for Ghost Ogre that just make this card feel really good into the game. It's just a nice, fair one for one piece, and if you ever have to put it on your board, it can send itself from the field to the grave. I would say that's a win, you know? Then we've got 3 copies of Molcharmy Perulia on the main deck. This is a card that you can 100% swap out for Fualos because that's the only other playable Molcharmy in the game, which I'm not. It's not that I'm not playing Fua, I'm just not main decking it. And again, it comes down to a lot of really good starters and even extenders to a degree come from the hand now. So I feel like we're going to be able to get more value from a Perulia than a Fualos, especially in the Rolad matchup, regardless of it being Rolad Azamina, Rolad Mitsurugi Azamina, and especially if it's Mitsurugi, this deck summons from the hand like crazy. So Perulia into Rolad, really strong. I know that Branded doesn't really summon from the hand all that much. Cool Tune does summon from the hand at a frequent enough basis that Perulia is honestly just better. But by preference, change out Perulia for Fua, and if you're not playing at a locals where things like high-level meta decks are being played, Ogre's 100% a cuttable card that you don't need to be playing. But I feel like if you are playing in those high-level locals or even like some regional events, Ogre right now just shows a lot of value. Then we're playing 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird. This guy needs to be locked up behind the ban list. Yeah, Droll just this card has existed for far too long. Putting it to 2 is pointless. And I've spoken my piece on Droll now. I hate this card, but I also understand that it's a way to keep things like this deck specifically in check. You search a lot. The floating effects from the Mitsurugi cards are just enough to be like, yeah, I search. How many times? Yes. Droll is just a card that kills a lot of deck. Like it's one of those it can be one of those turn ending hand traps in the game depending on what deck your opponent is playing. So I would rather just see this card gone so they don't have to keep designing cards around the fact that Droll exists, because it feels like that's what they're doing. But again, whatever Konami decides to do with Droll and Lockbird is what they decide to do, and I'm just going to stay here and play the game anyways. Then I've got 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This is another thing where I just really like being able to turn off any monster effect on the field. However, I am well aware that if you imperm a Cool Tune monster, they can still synchro summon using a monster in the hand because it's not an activated effect. It is a continuous effect that always applies regardless of the monster being negated or something like that. Yeah, I don't get it, but hitting the Fallen of the White Dragon, hitting your opponent's, anything really in Rolad to turn off its monster effect. There's a lot of like niche cases for imperm, but it also gives you a way to slow your opponent down before committing to anything like the Canine Engine or whatever, whatever you want. And that's going to be not it for the main deck, but that is it for the hand traps. I'm only playing the oh no, my Perulias. I am only playing 14 hand traps, but again, you guys saw that Izna technically bumps it up to 17 because of, well, the high playability of Izna by herself. Now, the final card I'm playing is a Called by the Grave. You don't have to main deck Called by if you don't want to. However, if you're not main decking called by, I wouldn't consider that a very gamer move. Given we are in a very hand trap heavy format, I would play the called by. Also, if you have the money for the playset of Dominus Impulse, that is a card that you can get away with in a pure version of this deck because it locks you out of light monsters if you use it from the hand. So for anybody about to suggest playing Dominus Impulse, I thought about it, but I kind of need my light effects. But it is a card that you can play if you decide to forego the Fiendsmith cards and play a much heavier canine package and play a much heavier canine a canine Mitsurugi list. This deck has the ability to go anywhere. Mitsurugi is just everything. And that is going to be it for the main deck. I know I'm going pretty slow. This is already a 20-minute recording, so we're going to try and get through the main. We're going to try and get through the extra and side deck very swiftly. So for the Mitsurugi, quote-unquote, portion of the extra deck, we are playing one copy of SP Little Guy, aka Little Knight, one copy of Dynamundo. Let me move these over just a little bit. And then for something in the side deck that I'm pretty sure is going to be very self-explanatory once I show the cards, one copy of Muddragon of the Swamp and one copy of Garura. However, there is a honorary mention that I want to give here for Predaplant Trifioveridum. It is a 3K 3K extra deck summon negate that requires 3 dark monsters on the field. I know requiring 3 dark monsters on the field does sound like a steep cost. However, as a super poly target into Azamina Rolad, I watched a 1-card combo video the other day where it was just Griffo and they ended on 3 dark monsters on the field plus the Charmer monster. And you can literally just in your draw phase super poly your opponent's entire board away for Trifioveridum. And yeah, 3K 3K a summon negate for an extra deck summon is cool, but I couldn't find the room for it, and that's because of because of the engine requirements for this. I don't know why I put these all the way up here because I'm actually going to be breaking the extra deck down into the different sections. So we're going to move past the generic slash Mitsurugi portion of the extra deck and move on to the Fiendsmith portion. We're playing one copy of Requiem, one copy of Exciton Knight, one copy of High Wave King Caesar, and one copy of Necroquip Princess. This is the, de facto line of cards that we're going to be going through after establishing our Mitsurugi cards. Essentially, with Nightsword Serpent being that free level 4 body, I'm pretty sure you can tell what monster we're making here, and that's Exciton. So the combo is convert 2 level 4 bodies into Exciton, link into Requiem, summon from the deck the 1 copy of Engraver, equip the Requiem from the graveyard to the equip the Requiem from the graveyard to the Engraver, and then Necroquip Princess, I thought required a Fiend monster plus a monster equipped with a card. It requires a Fiend monster card, which the phrasing on that is very important because you can use the Engraver as a monster equipped with an equip card for the fusion summon material, and Requiem as a Fiend monster card because it is a monster card being treated as an equip card. Yu-Gi-Oh! Rulings, they make no sense sometimes. And then after you summon the Necroquip, you're going to put back either the Requiem or the Exciton Knight, preference at that point. And you're going to make Caesar. So you add a Caesar onto your normal Mitsurugi M board, and if you have any canine cards, you have extra things that you can do on your opponent's turn. And now for the slew of Xyz monsters that we're playing for the canines. We are playing one copy of Ripper, one copy of Jax, one copy of Ripper M, one copy of Werewolf, one copy of Nash Knight, one number 103 Ragna Zero for the Nash Knight's effect, and one copy of Valen, the Super Psy Sky Blaster. Again, I would be playing the Chaos Nash Knight and number C104 as well as just regular number 104 if one, I had more extra deck space, and two, if I owned a number 104. I don't own a number 104 that I'm aware of. I haven't gone through my bulk that I have tucked away in a closet somewhere. So I might have a 104. But I won't know unless I go and dig, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't feel like it. So I'm going to move past all this. A lot of it is self-explanatory if you're familiar with the canine stuff. However, I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long, and we still have a side deck to go over. And I also am going to address the sleeves in this video because I don't think anybody really cares, but I am using a new brand of sleeves. And I want to kind of give like a small unbiased review about these sleeves. But I can wait until after the side deck, which has one copy of Mitsurugi Wosu, our 3 copies of Fuwa again. You can slot these into the main deck over the Perulias, but my preference is Perulia over Fuwa. Then I'm on 3 copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. I'm sorry for the ugly gold rares. I could not find my ultras. Then I have 2 copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Nibiru, the given 3 copies of Super Polymerization, and the one of Harpy's Feather Duster. So I'm gonna get into a couple of things real quick. Feather Duster, you don't need to play in the side deck. You can have that be any power 1 of that you want. The Nibirus and the Veilers can also be anything that you want. So there is 5 cards here in the side deck that you can already change. Wosu, you can also replace with whatever you want. So there's room for 2 play sets worth of alterations to the side deck. The side deck, I would base off of your local environment. So if there are better cards to be playing for your locals within the side deck, please, please, please change out these cards. Change out the Feather Duster, the Nibs, the Veilers, and the Wosu. The non-negotiables are obviously whatever charm you're deciding to side deck, and Bell, just because it has a lot of really good implications here within the format. And on that note, I am going to get into my sleeve review, because I will admit I was skeptical about these sleeves. These are the Kali Effects Ravenwing sleeves. Specifically, I believe these are the Ravenwing version 4s that he advertises right now, and I will say one thing. I have been testing with this deck almost non-stop off camera. This has been a very fun deck for me to sit down and learn. And the one issue I have with every other brand of sleeves is after a while of testing, the sleeves start sticking together, they don't shuffle as cleanly, they clump, and I haven't had that yet with Ravenwing. I've done probably 3 work days worth of testing, because I will take my cards with me to work and test at work, but that's just because of the freedom I have at my job, and I love my job to death. However, don't mistake that for me being lazy. I do my job, and I do it very well. Anyways, yeah, the Ravenwing sleeves. I really like these sleeves. I'm just gonna put it out there. These are really, really nice sleeves. They, like I said, they have a lot of shuffling on them, and they don't feel bad. They still shuffle really smooth. They don't clump together to like at all, really. I mean, obviously, if I try to do this really fast, they will clump together. At least the main deck will clump together. But if you go slow enough, the sleeves don't clump together when fanning your deck out. But when you're searching, they're buttery smooth. I will admit they are a little bit stickier, quote unquote. They do slide a lot less, easily than what these ones on the side deck will, because, well, I've obviously used these ones a lot more. My only issue with the sleeves is they do kind of look a little thin, but I think that's deceiving. I think the thinness of the sleeves is very deceiving. But overall, these sleeves have been great, and they were relatively well priced for what I got, and I'm not gonna complain about it. They are essentially what he advertises, probably the best sleeves in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm going to stop my review there for Ravenwing sleeves because we are at 30 minutes. I'm sorry I've rambled. A lot of this rambling was like explanation and then obviously this sleeve review. So on that note, I will be seeing you guys whenever life is done taking me out back and beating the ever-living shit out of me. Peace.